Welcome to the Art Scene Online Music Business Workshop. I am your host, Jonathan Shaw, and we are proudly sponsored by the National Arts Council. This is the 11th video in our video series, and we will be looking at artist management in the music industry. So the first thing to look at or understand is the business philosophy that an artist is going to have. Now, this deals with a lot of the life skills that an artist needs. A lot of artists believe that all they do is sit down and make music, and they just develop their talents and they make lots of money. Unfortunately, this is not the reality. A lot of people have to work very, very hard, and you have to often have a business mentality when you get into the industry that this is not going to be an easy ride. You're going to have to make sure that you understand who you are, what you can supply to the industry, what people are looking for, and you're going to come across a lot of no's when you get into the industry. What I mean by that is a lot of people are going to reject you, and unless you have a focus on a greater goal or a better reason to doing this, you're going to find that you can't survive as a principal artist. So a lot of artists end up getting into the behind the scenes side of the industry, whether it's being a music producer or being a session musician or a gigging musician or something along those lines that you can constantly make money. You could become a music educator and be able to give music lessons. But ultimately you have to understand that the artist is going to be a business. So this is what we've spoken about now, is that many artists will resist these perceptions, and the sooner you become aware that you need to be understanding the role of money and how you're going to have to make money in order to survive in the industry, the better. When you do become very, very successful, you're going to find that it's going to hide a lot of mistakes that you're going to make down the road. So what you need is to be able to build yourself up. So don't expect to go from nothing to becoming this major superstar overnight. It's only very rare that you find that some artists are transformed that way. And even when they are transformed that way, they can't cope with the pressures of success, and also to make sure that their money is managed correctly, and so that they're able to have money for when they're not a big massive success anymore. And also they have nothing to fall back on, so they fall outside of the music industry. So my goal is to make sure that you understand that if you want a enduring success in the music industry, I often talk about sustainability and not fame. So in other words, how are you going to keep making money if you get into the industry? So when you start out in the industry, you're not going to have a manager. You're not going to have somebody that is going to hold your hand. Often that person who's going to make things work is you. So you as the artist are going to have to take on all the management functions in order to be able to make a success of things. So work towards sustaining and growing your net worth, which is the amount of money that you have accumulated over your career in your lifetime. So if you're going to take on management, you need to understand that you're going to have to take things slowly. So everything starts with a personal manager, and only taking on management when you really need it. So a personal manager runs your day-to-day life. So without a personal manager, you're going to have to make sure that you get up early enough to make it to your gigs on time. You're going to have to make sure that whatever you're doing is going to be done on time, has a purpose, that you are getting paid for correctly. Nobody is going to go and help you do that. And only when you have enough money coming in are you going to need to realize that you're going to have to take on staff, and staff are going to have to be paid. So a personal manager is going to take a percentage of your earnings, and that's around about 20%. That is quite a significant amount of money to be taking from you, especially when you're small. The next thing you're going to need is some legal know-how. You're going to have to understand how the industry fits together. And if you've been going through this whole course, you'll understand a lot that other artists won't understand. But you're going to have to eventually get an attorney that is going to then draw up and put together agreements and help you understand how the industry is going to fit together, and also business decisions which are going to affect you legally. Then you're going to need a publicist. So in other words, if you're not setting up and running your Instagram account yourself, you're going to have to start getting a social media person to be able to go and do all of that social media presence for you, as well as looking at getting stories into news and into magazines and getting you interviews and building your career and profile very quickly outside of your recording contract, which concentrates only on your recordings and albums. Once you're making a whole lot of money, you're going to have to start keeping track of it. So if you're not keeping a spreadsheet yourself of your income and your expenses, you're going to have to hire an accountant or a business manager to take care of that for you. Then you're going to have to look at a road manager. So when you're too busy on the road and you're constantly gigging, you don't have time to go and organize everything that's needed for a particular gig or a particular promoted performance, and you're going to need a road manager to do that for you. And then finally, once you've got so much work you can't handle it, you're going to have to look at taking on a booking agent. In other words, somebody who's going to go out, get agreements for various performances, and then conclude that with yourself and the music promoter in order to be able to effectively have a lot of gigs and promotions going on at the same time. There can be a lot of abuses and dangers in a management relationship, and that includes a conflict of interest, where a manager may not have your best interest at heart and will obviously go against what's in your best interest. They might withhold money from you, so you must make sure that's rather paid into your bank account and then you pay all of the members of your management team. They might seek additional compensation that you don't know about in order to have you perform somewhere. They should rather have your consent at all times about everything that gets done. They might mix different artists' money together, and as I say, you'd rather have it all go into your bank account and get paid out from there. And then watch out for family members who are your managers. They might have your best interest at heart, but don't understand the business side of things, and things can go horribly wrong when you have disagreements with them. And finally, we have a look at groups in the music business. So it's best to have some sort of internal group agreement when there's more than one of you, so between two of you or a four-member band or something along those lines. And this internal group agreement would often outline key members. So in other words, key members that might be the songwriter and the lead performer in a particular band, and they might have more influence and might get paid more money, and that should be recognized up front. Of course, the earning percentages in a band, yeah, sure, everybody wants to be paid equally, but the rest of the band members might not have access to the songwriting component that the band might earn, if that makes sense. And then what happens if you need to hire another band member or fire a band member? Or what happens if a band member wants to quit? What will you do in this circumstance? And then, of course, what happens to all the assets? So if the drummer brings all of their drums into the band, can they just take those drums back at the end of the day? Did the band pay for those drums? Does it belong to the band as a whole? So a lot of this has to do with the law of partnerships and how that works. And then finally, what happens to the group name? If you've made a group name, if the band breaks up, who gets to use the name? And this is very important things that you need to consider. That concludes this video, and I will see you for the next one.